I'm just so grateful for this conversation right now because number one, how beautiful that in your journey you had that awakening, that awareness at such a young age. Because for me, man, I was the good boy,
Yeah,
right?
same.
And I would not do anything. Like I was the guy that when they said like, I mean, when they said whatever they said, I was just like, I'm just gonna do whatever you tell me to
Yeah.
do, you know?
But you didn't do whatever they tell you to do because we heard from Aaron that the church tells you to go out and make disciples, and you already admitted that you never did that. So, did you do whatever they told you to do, or did you not do whatever they told you to do? Which one is it?
And I'm just gonna be whatever you want me to be.
Yeah.
But then what started happening inside of me was like, but some of this just doesn't feel right for me, you know? And then my mind would go, you can't think that.
That's the devil.
That's the devil.
Yep.
That's it. That's the devil. You can't, like cast it out or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I go back to living like normal, right? And then, I would start attracting a lot of success in business and a lot of just cool things. And people would say to me, well, like, God has really blessed you. And then I would think like, well, shit, like, didn't I envision it? And didn't I, in a sense, create it from those visions? No. The devil's in. So, and then for me, the crust was like relationship and marriage, like visions. No. The devil's in.
So let me get this straight, Danny. When people brought to your attention how good God has been to you and how much God has blessed you, the first thing that comes to your mind is, oh, but didn't I do all of this? And you want us to believe that following your teachings will help us live less from our ego and more from our heart.
So, and then for me, the crust was like relationship and marriage. Like the whole concept of like, once you're in, it was like you're in.
Yeah.
And I had a pastor literally, which I understand commitment, that's a different thing. But
no, Danny, marriage and commitment aren't different things. Marriage is a commitment. It's a commitment that no matter what, I'm going to stick by your side and get through whatever it is we are going through. I am committed to loving you, and I am vowing that I will be with you through everything until death do us part. Marriage and commitment complement each other. They are not separate things.
But I had a pastor literally tell me, like, no, you made up your decision and this is it. You're stuck basically.
You're locked in.
You're locked in. And none of that felt like good in my heart.
Same.
And your pastor gave you good advice. He gave you the correct biblical advice and the morally correct thing to do. You are to adhere to the commitment that you made till death do you part. Unless your wife is violently abusive or cheating on you and there's no hope of reconciliation, unless something like that is going on, you are committed to figuring it out. You can't just bail out because it's not feeling good in your heart because, screw how she feels, screw how maybe your kids feel, screw all of that. It just isn't feeling right. And just a side note, this isn't to like harp on this, but Danny had an affair. So Danny is the one who cheated, which means that Danny was bailing out on the commitment and the vow that he made. Marriage and commitment are not separate.
There was a lot of moments of breaking down and like trying to accept the inevitable, but it was a lot of things converging at once. The biggest one being, is there a God? Like I thought there was, but maybe there isn't. And there was this period of like closet atheism for a while. And then I started obsessively reading near-death experiences to try to get like, if anyone knows the truth, it's people who've gone to the other side. Let's see what they have to say. And that really was what lifted me out of that season because it was like this grand consensus amongst every NDE I'd ever read. Almost the same experience every time, meeting the source, having a life review. So that gave me hope.
So someone to look into who's done a lot of research on near-death experiences is Dr. Stephen Miller. He wrote a book titled Near-Death Experiences as Evidence for the Existence of God and Heaven. He covers like 35 years of research in that book. And although I find near-death experiences to be very interesting, they're not something that we should base our whole entire worldview off of. I do think, though, that if you believe the testimonies of people who have went, quote unquote, to the other side, that this can give you hope of something after this life. So I do think that it's good for that as evidence for there being something beyond the grave, but to base your whole entire worldview off of testimonies from people who have had near-death experiences, I don't know, I would just be a little hesitant to do so.
But then it was like, but then what is God? Is God like what I thought? Is God really loving? Or is God just this kind of like placid intelligence that doesn't care much about me? So I went on that journey into Eastern stuff and studied Buddhism and Hinduism a lot. And that's what brought me full circle back to kind of mystical Christianity and seeing Christ from a very mystical lens, marrying East with West in that way, really created a spiritual path that resonated deeply for me because I felt like the Eastern traditions, although they were very abundant in what I was lacking in Christianity, which is like the knowledge aspect, understanding the divine, understanding God, Christianity has got that all out of whack. It doesn't have almost a clue what God really is like.
None whatsoever.
Yeah.
None whatsoever? Not even a little bit? No? And if the whole goal is to get out of the mind and into the heart, then why did you go seeking knowledge and understanding? And if you notice, he was like pointing to his mind when he was doing that. If the whole goal is to leave the mind and live from the heart, then you were doing that with Christianity. And with that being said, I am so sorry that the depth of your theological understanding of the Christian God is Oral Roberts University. I would argue that neither of these guys making this claim that Christianity has no clue whatsoever about understanding God or the knowledge of God, I would argue that they have never read anything from any of the church fathers. 2,000 years of deep theological exegesis on the most tested spiritual text of all time. And these guys think that the 40 plus years that they're on this planet, they have somehow accessed more knowledge about the divine than all of the 2,000 years of study into the Bible. Wow. I would suggest, if you guys are listening to this, if you really do think that the knowledge side of the divine is lacking in Christianity and that Christians don't have a clue about the divine, I think that you should read something by Dr. William Lane Craig and J.P. Moreland titled Philosophical Foundations for a Christian Worldview. To say that Christianity has no clue whatsoever, that's just an ignorant statement to make. And it shows that you have not done diligent research into this topic.
I was lucky that my church growing up we very much spoke ill of religion and the spirit of religion, and we didn't want anything we did to be too ceremonial and orderly. We wanted it to be genuine and authentic.
So if something is ceremonial and orderly, it's therefore not authentic, but then it is authentic if there's no structure or order whatsoever. That's the litmus test for if something is authentic or not. Or is it possible to authentically participate in ceremony? Because from your guys' worldview, mystic practices can be very ceremonial. Are you saying that since these New Age practices like ayahuasca retreats, those are very ceremonial? Are those now thrown out? They're not authentic? I hope so. I hope you throw that stuff out. But if the litmus test is it's inauthentic, if it's structured and ceremonial, then you should throw out anything that any spirituality does that has any type of ceremony or structure to it. So what makes something authentic is if it is true. Thanks so much for watching that clip. If you want to see the full episode, click right here. God bless.